RLNTS Net Monthly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency traffic or priority traffic? Please come now. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from World Net Control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on this frequency, which is, if you haven't guessed, 146.880 megahertz with a pale tone of 110.9er. Check and see Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-LR station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is W5FC.org right now for a complete list. And please remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any radio club to participate. This net is about 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. Our general announcements. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, what you can see in the sky tonight, a featured constellation or object or topic, recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and an astronomical Q&A round. Depending on time, we'll see, and 10, the 73 round. Depending on time, we may or may not get to every single one of these. So, let's go ahead and start with low power short time check-ins. If you're low power short time, please come with your call sign, name, location. Let me know if you're low power short time. Please come now.
Five, Papa. Mike and Richardson. Full power, 2.5 watts.
Hotel Yankee Papa, short time.
Net recognizes those two, KG5P, Mike, low power, 2.5 watts, and I got Tom, N5HYP, short time. Any additional or short time, please come now. Okie dokie. Anyone that I acknowledge, do you have any comments for the net before I continue? Please come now. Hearing none, let's continue. I'll go ahead and take general check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. General check-ins.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mobile.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn and Louisville.
Alpha, Bravo, Alpha. Andre in Dallas.
Number 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen.
Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Tango, November Foxtrot, Johnny in Garland.
Let's hold up there. Let me acknowledge everybody I got. KF5JHA, Chaz, Mobile. We may call on you later. You may want to pull over to the side of the road. I'm not sure. N5VV, Bill in Irving. Got Chip. KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn, my neighbor down the street, Louisville. N5ARA, Andre in Dallas. N5WOI, William and Allen. KG KG5A, PL Patrick, Dallas, KG5, Victor Juliet Papa, Robert Richardson, KG5 TNF, Johnny in Garland, over on Echolink, I believe, and K5 JDW, John over in Norman. He just chatted in the chat window. I'll take additional check-ins, please. Come now.
Oh, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Louisville.
All right, K5ZBL, Bill in Louisville. Oh, very interesting. Our Prez is nearby somewhere. I'll check him on reverse and see exactly how far away he is. Well, that's unusual, kind of light check-ins. I'll try one more time. I know you're all out there. Anyone else who would like to check in over RF, please come now before I move to Echolink. Please come out. Okay, embarrass me, why don't you? The Echolink crowd's giving me moral support here. I'll go ahead and take Echolink check-ins. Echolink only, please come now with your call sign, name, and most importantly, where you're transmitting from. Echolink only.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J near Weatherford.
Kilo Golf 5, Tango November Foxtrot, Johnny in Garland is actually Echo Link.
Okay, KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. And Johnny, I don't know if I thought I got you, maybe not. KG-ENF, Johnny over in Garland. Additional check-ins, any mode, please come now.
Echo 5, Zulu, Yankee, Oscar. Tango Mike.
All right, we'll tease a couple more people out. KE5ZYL, I think that's Jay in Dallas, and NT5TM, Tony, I know you're in Dallas. I'll take one more round and then we'll start the net. Please come now. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. All right, hearing none, there's another opportunity later on, multiple opportunities to check in. I'll keep an eye over here on Echolink as well. Let's see, do we have any general announcements this evening? They can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now.
Hello, Echo 5, Zulu, Yankee, Oscar.
Very good. I've got NT5TM and KE5ZY. Tony, go ahead.
Good evening, Tom. I know you'll have more to say on one of these things. I would just like to remind everyone that this is the 4th of July holiday week, and we have a lot of special operating opportunities coming up. The Canada Day event, which has already started, the 1010 Spirit of 76 QSO party, and the 13 Colony special event, and there's more details about all of these at w5fc.org, but there's more. So do not have a club meeting this week. Come to the club meeting on the 10th. That's covered at w5fc.org as well. There is no Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting this week. Do not go to the hospital. They will just look at you funny. There'll be no one there to meet with. We have two fun opportunities. We have the meeting on the air tomorrow at 7 p.m. right on this repeater, and the Afterglow Movie Net right here tonight at 10:30. Tom, I bet you're going to talk more about the Afterglow later. This is NT5TM.
Good. Thank you, Tony. Anybody need any pills? Please come out. All right, KE5ZYLJ. I hope I got your call sign right. Go ahead. You had an announcement.
Well, that and the question, didn't know if you were going to cover the fact that Vespa, the 300-mile wide asteroid, would be visible if we didn't have all of this Saharan dust in the atmosphere. That's all I had. KE5ZYO.
My goodness, I just totally murdered your call sign, KE5ZYO. All right, well, I'm not sure. Maybe we need to ask about that. I'm the 5th Saturday guy, so I don't know. Normally I'm back mopping the shuttles, so we'll find out. Okay, very good. Let me see. What's next on this? Oh, I know. Let's see. We usually do the AMSAT stuff. Yeah, you know where it is. Tuesday, Wednesday nights. AMSATnet.com. Go there. You'll find the information. Tuesday nights is a great net listening in, and you will be acknowledged from anywhere in the world. And they give you updates on what's happening at NASA, but more specifically what's happening with amateur satellites. There's also a net on Wednesday evenings. It's 9 p.m. Sorry, I have to look. Our Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz with field 10 tone of 110.9 with a positive offset in that part of the band. You can go ahead and check in there on Wednesday evenings. Now, don't forget, every night of the week there is a net here on the W5FC repeater. We start at 7:30 with the, 6:30. National Traffic Net at 6:30, and then goes till about 7 o'clock, maybe a little after, depending on what's going on. And then also we have Ham Fixins, the first Monday and third Monday of every month. Second Monday is MCOM 101, and then the fourth week is GeekNet, and then there's a fifth week, which is always a surprise net. So Mondays are important. You want to know what's going on? Come on by. Cooking, first and third, that's Ham Fixins. MCOM, Emergency Communications, you do not have to be a special person involved with emergency communications, just curious about it. Fourth week is GeekNet. We talk about everything, radios and beyond, and the fifth is the surprise net, which I think we do have one coming up. Wednesdays, we have the Veteran Net, first and third week from 7 until 8 p.m. We need some participation there. Folks, come by, talk about your stories, time you were in the military, or your radio interests that involve anything, actually. We'll take it. We need you there. So please participate on that net, first and third week from 7 until 8 p.m. Saturdays are the night of nets, starting at 7 o'clock until around 8 or thereabouts is TechNet. Ask your technical questions about amateur radio and beyond, as well as pick up information, technical information about what's going on in amateur radio. 9 o'clock, of course, is Skynet, which runs from 9 until 10:30 or thereabouts. We may be a little early this evening, a little light on details, but that's okay. And then finally, the Afterglow Movie Net, which is tonight, which will be at 10:30. The movie, we had to put this one in real quick. Chappie. In the near future, crime is patrolled by a mechanized police force. When one police droid, Chappie, is stolen and given new programming, he becomes the first robot with the ability to think and feel for himself. So join us tonight at 10:30 p.m. to talk about the movie Chappie. And I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty good discussion. So if you want to talk about artificial intelligence, movies about robots, anything you'd like, it's okay. You don't have to have seen the movie. You can comment on the comments as well as anything you want to add. There's plenty having to do with the genre of robots and artificial intelligence. Tonight wouldn't be complete without actually mentioning the club website, which is the call sign to the repeater, which is w5fc.org. Go there. You'll find this thing is updated almost hourly, it seems, but it is frequently updated. You can find out what's going on there. You can also comment if you like, or add suggestions or whatever. Website is w5fc.org. Does anyone need any fills? Right, moving right along. We have the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. Is anybody here who's already checked in or anybody who would like to check in, talk about TAS, please come now. That's okay. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas has a number of events that you can join in on. Every Saturday night there is a star party which you can attend. You can go to texasastro.org, find out, go to the calendar, and you'll find out each Saturday night a different location. Calendar also boasts different events that may be going on as well as the club activities that include telescope making, first-time astronomers, amateur astronomers, and things they can do. There's a whole bunch of things going on. All you have to do is go to texasastro.org to get additional information on it. Their meetings are the fourth Friday of the month, so all you have to do is find out about it at the website. They are at the Science Learning Center building, or SLC. They have a map to tell you where you can park, as well as the room that the group meets in. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to go ahead and ask Bill, N5VV. What do you have for us for the National Space Society events, as well as anything you'd like to add to the net this evening? N5BB from KE5ICX, net's yours.
On the net, this is N5BB. Well, the National Space Society participated today in Asteroid Day at the Perot Museum of Nature and Science in downtown Dallas. This is the second event the local chapter has had at the Perot Museum. The first one was back in, I believe, April. So this is the second public outreach event. You might wonder, what is this Asteroid Day? Well, Asteroid Day is the anniversary of the Siberian Tunguska event that took place on June the 30th, 1908. Means this is, 110 years after that event. This is the anniversary. Anyway, so on June the 30th every year, there is a discussion about that asteroids could do harm to the Earth. It's an awareness kind of event. The first Asteroid Day was in 2015, so this is only the third one. So that's the reason we have Asteroid Day. It turns out that the first interstellar object coming through our solar system, the first known one, happened to have been discovered recently. It has the name Oumuamua, which is a Hawaiian term essentially meaning a scout or traveler. And Oumuamua was discovered after it had already passed the sun. It was originally thought it was a comet, but it's going far too fast. It's going on the order of 59,000 miles per hour. So it exceeds the escape velocity of the solar system. So that means it must have started outside the solar system. Its trajectory is going to cause it to exit the influence of our solar system in about 20,000 years. Currently, it is, where is it? Well, currently it's leaving the solar system. It's like past Saturn, I believe. But it'll take it a long time before it completely gets out. Let's see. Excuse me, it's past Jupiter. It'll pass above Saturn's orbit in 2019 and Neptune's orbit in 2022. So anyway, kind of interesting that we're talking about Asteroid Day and this big object missed us. This object's, pretty big. It was like 800 feet long. Let's see the size. I'll find it here in a moment. Now I'm missing it. It's, I believe, was it 300 meters long? Something like that. Here we go. Excuse me. 230 meters. 230 by 35 by 35 meters. So it's a pretty good size of stuff. Anyway, recently, in the last week, it was announced that it appears to have comet material rather than asteroid rocky material. It's outgassing because its orbit is undergoing odd changes. So pretty sure it has some ices on it that are vaporizing. So that's everything we have from Asteroid Day. I missed the last meeting of the National Space Society here, local chapter. because it was the day after field day and I had the visitors in town. The next meeting of the National Space Society locally will not be tomorrow. It'll be a week after tomorrow, Sunday, July the 8th. It's going to be roughly 3:30 p.m. at the Spring Creek Barbecue at Beltline and 183 in Irving. That's all I got, Tom, in 5BB.
Appreciate it. Does anyone need any fills? This is KE5ICX on net control for the 5th Saturday. We don't get these very often, but occasionally we do. And it's amazing. It's a shorter month, June 30th, so I got to do double duty. So, let's see here. Let me go ahead and ask if there's additional check-ins before we move on to the next section, which is our featured topic this evening. We're going to be talking about Messier objects. So if you got a favorite, you need to spout off here in a little bit. But first, let me go ahead and take check-ins. Any additional folks who would like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign name. Let me know where you're transmitting from. Please come now.
This is WB5OZL. Name is Brenda, and I am mobile.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform. David, transmitting from St. Paul, Texas.
Let me get those two. I got WB5OZL, Miss Brenda. She's mobile somewhere out there. Somewhere out there. There's a song to that. KG5EIU, David, in St. Paul, Texas. Anyone else? Please come in.
KG5OCB, David, in Arlington, Texas.
Very good. I got KG5OCD, David, over in Arlington. Welcome, David. Okay, let's see. I had to come up with something quick, so I did, because I realized, this is the 5th Saturday. I didn't look at the calendar that well, so here's what we got. What I wanted to do this evening is discuss a list of Messier objects. There are 110 of them. And mention something about why they exist, why there's a Messier list, and then ask you, the listener, the amateur radio operator, which ones you particularly like. So here's the thing I'm going to do. I know not everybody is intimately familiar with the Messier numbers, but I want you to go ahead and go to w5fc.org, find the link to the Wikipedia, you'll find it, and then there's a list of objects. And then inside of that, I'd like you to go ahead and look through the list and see if there's something there that you're familiar with or would be interested in talking about or whatever. It's kind of one of those things where we're going to kind of write the net based on what your comments are. So while you peruse the website, the wiki on Messier objects, let me tell you what it says about them. The Messier objects are a set of 110 astronomical objects cataloged by the French astronomer Charles Messier in his Catalogue des Nebuleuses et du Amas Étoiles. The Catalogue of Nebulae and Star Clusters. A preliminary version first appeared in Memoirs of the French Academy of Sciences in 1771, and the last item was added in 1966 by Kenneth Glenn Jones based on Messier's observations. That's interesting. First version of Messier's catalog contained 45 objects and was published in 1774 in the Journal of French Academy Sciences in Paris. Or as they say, Paris. In addition to his own discoveries, this version included objects previously observed by other astronomers, with only 17 of the 45 objects being Messier's. By 1780, the catalog had increased to 80 objects. The final version of the catalog, containing 103 objects, was published in 1781 in the Connaissance des Temps in the year 1784. However, due to what was a long time to be the incorrect edition of Messier 102, the total number remained 102. Other astronomers, using side notes in Messier's text, eventually filled out the list up to 110 objects. The catalog consists of a diverse range of astronomical objects, ranging from star clusters, nebula, and galaxies. Messier 1 is the supernova remnant of the Crab Nebula, and the great spiral Andromeda galaxy is M31. Many further inclusions followed in the next century when the first edition came from Nicolas Camille Flammarion in 1921, who added Messier 104 after finding Messier's side notes in his 1781 edition of Exemplar of the catalog. 105 through 107 were added by Helen Sawyer-Hogg in 1947, Messier 108 and 109 by Owen Gingrich in 1960, and finally Messier 110 by Kenneth Glenn Jones in 1967. Messier was interested in finding only comets. He created the list of non-comet objects that frustrated his hunt for them. Compilation of this list, in addition with his assistant Pierre Marchand, is known as the Messier catalog. This catalog of objects is one of the most famous lists of astronomical objects, and many Messier objects are still referenced by their Messier or M number. Right. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to look through the list, and what I'm going to do is I'll tell you about my personal favorites. I have two. I'm going for the okie dokie. You are welcome to do so as well. But there are two that are very popular. I've even photographed one of them. Way back when, probably 1975 was the last time, and I did it through a Cassegrain mount 20-inch telescope at Illinois Wesleyan University. I did an undergraduate program, although undergraduate, I was before I had graduated high school. I had taken what was called a college credit and escrow class for 3 weeks about astronomy. It had labs and everything that went along with it. We go up into the observatory that they had with a Schmidt-Cassegrain mount equatorial mount telescope, and I took a picture of M13, sometimes known as NGC 6235, the Great Globular Cluster of Hercules. My picture was pretty good. My photograph worked out okay. There was a slight drift because the equatorial mount wasn't exactly right. Shame on you, university. But in any case, I was able to get a picture of it, and I still have it squirreled away in my Apollo scrapbook, which I had kept as a kid. The other one that I have, and I am particularly interested in, of course, is M31, or NGC 224, the Andromeda Galaxy, which can be seen with the naked eye. It is quite huge when seen in the sky, and it can be seen even in light-polluted areas such as Dallas. Very distantly. However, you can see it in naked eye in a very dark environment. And my field guide to the stars, which I had, that a dog ate. Yes, literally, I had a dog that ate that book. My field guide. You can see from large star fields M31 quite plainly. So I'm sure it was one of the very first that was seen by everyone, in fact, as a fuzzy object, this time, of course, a galaxy. Those are the easy ones. I can talk about others here, and I may, if I don't get any responses, we'll talk about some of them. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to anyone who is interested. Please tell us about Messier object that you particularly like, why you like it, and what were your first impressions. So Messier objects, 1 through 110. I think you're pretty safe if you even gazed up at the sky and seen something fuzzy. You probably have seen a Messier object. So I'll go ahead and ask anyone who has any comments about Messier objects, please come now.
Tango Mike. F5, JHA.
OZT.
Let me acknowledge that group, and we'll start at the top. I got NT5TM Tony, AG5APL Patrick, K5JJ Chaz, KC5OZT Miss Carolyn. Let's start at the top. NT5TM Tony, go ahead.
May have more comments later if you take a second round, but the Andromeda Galaxy is very special. I really enjoy not just seeing beautiful things, but deepening friendships thereby. I don't know what they call it, improving our relationships, making friends, building, rapport. On various occasions, whether it was on a moonless night here in Dallas, you actually can just barely kind of see the nucleus of the galaxy on a moonless night in Dallas. Or when we were forced off the highway, we couldn't get on 35 or 75 because of wildfires. So we were wandering around rural Oklahoma to avoid the wildfires, and so we stopped to look at the stars because, hey, it's the middle of nowhere, right? You can see stars. Erin knows M31 as just the galaxy. She knows how to find it. She knows it's kind of faint and white and pretty. And the fact that we have found it together on dark nights just makes me want to hug somebody, preferably her, when she comes back in from watering plants. So I love the stars when they make my relationships better, and the Andromeda Galaxy has done that for me. NT5TM.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. And yeah, it's quite spectacular, and it should be spectacular for others who are viewing. And there's all the collaterals that go along with it. So, okay, I'm good with that. KG5APL, Patrick, tell us your favorite Messier object or something you would like to discuss. Go ahead.
The Black Eye Galaxy, but an interesting galaxy, or rather Messier object, is M80, just because it's extremely dense, and there's a lot of crazy stuff that's going on within that Messier object. But to share, I guess, a YouTube channel that talks a lot about these Messier objects. It's Deep Sky Video. That's Deep Sky Video. He's Guy Brady Horan. He goes through and talks to a lot of professors or doctors who study these astronomy, and he goes in and interviews them, and they have a lot of really insightful, really interesting and more on a deeper level than you might get from, let's say, Wikipedia or surface researching. You can go to these videos and learn a lot more about the Messier objects. Thank you very much, KG5APO.
Very good, Patrick. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your comments on M80 as well. All right, Deep Sky Video, I think it's .com, but I think if you just put it into your favorite search engine, Deep Sky Video, you will find it. And I do have it marked here. I will check it out myself. Next up, KF5JHA. Chaz, you probably have many Messier objects that you think are cool. Go ahead.
Good evening, Nat. KF5JHA. Well, Tony hit one of them on the head, is the Andromeda Galaxy. Actually, you can see 3 M objects, oftentimes, depending on your optical instrument you're using, 3 M objects all in the same field of view, which is awesome. M31, 32, and M110. So that's a great one. Of course, you mentioned M1, the Crab Nebula. The Pleiades, something you can see with your 2 eyes easily in the sky, is M45. My favorites are the 2 that I found on my own first a long time ago, M6 and M7, just off the tail of Scorpio. So those are nice open clusters. One's called the butterfly cluster. I encourage all of you to go out there. If you have just a pair of binoculars, look off the tail of the Scorpion even tonight, and you can find those 2 open clusters. Now, I want to talk about one other thing. The M objects are not evenly distributed across the sky. In fact, they're grouped up in different areas. So what really is great is that around March, somewhere around the 3rd week of March, is a time when you can actually see more than 100 of them all in one night. The goal is to see if you can find all 110, if you can, in one single night, from sunset all the way to sunrise. It's called the Messier Marathon. You usually have that around the time of the new moon, around the 3rd week or so of March. That varies by a few weeks depending on the phase of the moon. And that's something to look forward to if you've never done that. The Messier Marathon. All right, KF5, JJ, back to net.
Thank you, Chaz. And trying to put up Messier Marathon and all the things that go along with it. Very cool. Thank you so much. It's good to hear you. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn, your comments, your favorite Messier objects, or any comments you wish to make. This is KE5ICX. Back to you.
To cover all of them I like, but and some of them have already been mentioned, but an interesting one is the Crab Nebula, M1. I never was able to observe it too well, but just knowing its history, you know, supernova that was seen here on Earth, and then it, over the years, it becomes this nebula. And that makes it very interesting, and let me reset. One, like it's the Eagle Nebula, M16 and Serpens, and, well, I've always liked it, all right, you know, and then when the Hubble came out with the photos of it, you can see just it is just beautiful. And also the star-forming region, the pillars of clouds, dust clouds where the stars are being formed, and some of the background nebula. It's just a beautiful sight. And it depends on what of it you're looking at. The Eagle is sort of in the middle, but Hubble has really given us even more beautiful pictures of it. And like I say, there are so many, it's hard to think of narrow them down to just one, but those are some of the most outstanding ones to me. KC50ZT.
All right, thank you, Miss Carolyn. Most appreciated, your comments on that. Let's see here. Additional comments. Anyone who would like to join us or have comments, your favorite Messier objects, please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa.
T5TM will have a comment after Mike.
KF5 PDS checking in with a favorite.
Very good. Let me go ahead and get those taken care of. I've got KF5PDS, Miss Billy, and Sherman. I got you checked in. I also got you listed with a comment. I recognize KG5P and NT5TM. So we'll start with Mike, KG5P. Go ahead. Your favorite Messier objects or comments? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. KG5P. Yeah, Andromeda was mentioned here. One of my favorites is a satellite of Andromeda, or a close-by galaxy called M33 in Triangulum. It's part of the local group, which of course includes Andromeda, Milky Way, the greater and lesser Magellanic clouds. I think there's about maybe total 60 all total. And they're called the local group because they're all moving kind of towards, they're all moving in the same direction, basically, as opposed to everything else out there. What I like about M33, also called the Pinwheel Galaxy, is you're looking at it head on, as opposed to kind of a side view, maybe 30 degrees from the Andromeda Galaxy, so that the pinwheel really looks spectacular. It's about half. I'm just talking up top of my head now. I didn't prepare for this, obviously. I think it has about half of it's about half the size of the Andromeda, or maybe even the same size as the Andromeda. It only has about 1/7 the mass, and it's spread out all over the place. So you really need a low-power eyepiece to see it, but it's quite spectacular because you're looking at it full-on, and it's called the pinwheel for obvious reasons. So that's what I had, M33, KG5P.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I didn't give a lot of notice on this because I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about this evening. But yeah, it's very spectacular. I got some pictures up on the stream here, and I agree. Very cool looking. NT5TM, Tony, you're next. Additional comments.
I really have enjoyed showing M1 to Aaron and, practicing finding it myself. But my own favorite Messier object was the Pleiades. I knew they had a number, but I couldn't remember what it was, and I'm in the kitchen and I can't easily look it up. So M45. The Pleiades are awesome and beautiful because you can kind of discern a faint structure just with your own naked eyes. And then as you go to binoculars or a telescope, you get more and more. That's actually probably true of a lot of these. I haven't spent enough time on Messier objects. So I love showing M1. That's a wonderful relationship building experience. And when I'm on my own, M45, NT5TM.
And I agree with you. It's one of my favorites as well. And if I remember, in ancient times, if you were a warrior, you could see beyond just the Seven Sisters. You could see beyond that and see additional stars. Of course, you had to be honest in your overall evaluation and what people could see. So. And it's also, in case folks didn't know, and this has been mentioned on several nets before, I think Subaru uses it, which I think is Japanese for Pleiades or something like that. In any case, I'll murder that. I'm sure I'll be corrected. But, yes, the Pleiades is really cool. I love it. It's one of my favorites as well. Let's go to KF5PDS, Miss Billy. Welcome to the net. You are a Messier Marathon alumnus. Tell us, what's your favorite from KE5ICX?
You're correct on the Subaru, Tom, KG5P.
Great. Well, thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I have a lot of favorites, and one that I've come in late, so it may not have been mentioned. I didn't hear it mentioned, so if I'm repeating one, I apologize. But one of the ones that I haven't heard talked about while I've been on the air is M104, the Sombrero Galaxy. That's one of my favorites. It can be found, it's technically in the constellation Virgo, but it's a little easier to find if you look down to Corvus the Crow and look at Eta Corvi, which is a Delta and Eta, I think, are a double star in that constellation. It's the kind of the star that's in the top left corner. It sticks out just above. It kind of sticks out. Corvus makes not like a parallelogram, but it's just a little quartet of looking as not a square, but kind of trapezoidal, I guess. And if you look just north and a little bit west of that top left star, you'll find the Sombrero Galaxy. You can also find Spica and look east and just a hair southeast of Spica, and you'll come to the Sombrero Galaxy. It's a beautiful galaxy. I just love it because it's got this massive dark lane of dust, and so you can see this big dust lane, and it's got this huge disk with this bright bulging center, so that's what gives it its name. It looks like a sombrero. But I just love looking at the dark lane and how bright the center is, and it has this wonderful galactic halo that's also very bright. So it's just a very striking galaxy, and to me it looks very serene and peaceful. I guess the luminous halo just gives it a serenity that I just really enjoy looking at. And it also features in sci-fi. I probably saw it, it came to love it early because at the end, it's featured at the end of every original Outer Limits black and white show. And also, it's featured in the final voiceover of The Incredible Shrinking Man. It's one of the galaxies that they show as the character is voicing over as he is disappearing. It's prominently featured in sci-fi, and it's just a beautiful galaxy to look at. So I highly encourage, if you have not seen the Sombrero Galaxy, to go look for that. Again, you can find the star Spica, look just east and a little bit south, and it's just north and a hair west of the top star in Corvus. So Look for it. It's a beautiful galaxy. Again, it's Messier 104, the Sombrero Galaxy. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KF5TDS, back to net.
Thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. We've had weigh-ins on several of everyone's favorite Messier objects. We've had M6, M7, we have M31, M13, M33, M45, M104. Let's see here. Let me do this. Let me take additional check-ins. The rest of you peruse and decide if you would like to talk about a particular object in space that you find interesting. We're talking about the Messier objects, which are all the cool stuff, planetary nebula, star clusters, galaxies, you name it. We also have, in case you're not sure of which one it is, you can go ahead and go to w5fc.org. There is a link there, and it lists on Wikipedia all the different ones with pictures. So if you see one there you would like to talk about or you think is particularly cool, please do so. This is KE5ICX. I'm Net Control for tonight. Skynet, it's open mic because it's the 5th Saturday and we didn't plan anything. So we're talking about Messier objects. I'll take additional check-ins if you'd like to join us this evening. That doesn't mean you have to name something, but if you have something, just let me know. I'll take check-ins now. Please come now. Your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Bravo, number 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power, long time.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas.
So 5 Kilo Oscar Bravo, Philip from Crandall.
All right, let me go ahead and get those check-ins. I got WB4, MFI, Ted in Dallas, low power. He's now a long time and has been for about a month. Welcome back, Ted. W5EBB, David in Dallas, welcome. K5KOB, Philip and Crandall. Any additional check-ins? Come now. I didn't hear any. Do I have, let's see, any candidates, someone who would like to talk about a favorite Messier object? Tonight it's kind of an open mic thing. Anything you'd like to talk about as far as the cool fuzzy stuff up in the skies? Please come now.
KG5P.
Hi, KG5P. Mike, go ahead.
Again, on the Andromeda Galaxy, which is notable for all kinds of things, and I don't have any information right in front of me, so I'm just speaking off the top of my head again. But people always wonder how we know how far this stuff is. Like, for instance, the Andromeda Galaxy is now about 2 million light years. So how do we know that? Well, there was a woman astronomer, and I should know her name, but I can't think of it right now. You probably know that she Cepheid variables. And the variable stars, usually large stars that have at the end of their lives, and she found there's a relationship between how bright and dim they get. In other words, they're bright for a while, and then they're dim, and then they're bright, and then they're dim. And that brightness and dimness is very, very predictable. It occurs like a clock. And she found a relationship between that and the star's luminosity, how much light it's actually putting out. And Edwin Hubble actually used that information to determine that the Andromeda Galaxy was not part of the Milky Way, because up until that time, nobody really knew for sure, but they thought it probably was. So with these Cepheid variables, the absolute brightness, which is a function of its period, of its brightness period, when it goes dim and when it goes dark or bright, you can figure out its absolute brightness, and you know from observing it what its relative brightness is on Earth. And so using like simple inverse square law, you can determine how far away it is. If you know two of these three variables, the brightness, the luminosity, and the distance, if you only know two of those, you can always find the other three. And we found Cepheid variables all over the sky, and that's one of the main reasons, or one of the main processes we use to determine how far away something is. And again, it all goes back to this relationship between the brightness and I guess for lack of a better word, their photo period, how they get bright and in the darkness. You know, then they dim out for a while and then they come back. And there's a very close relation, a very tight relationship between that and the absolute brightness. So I thought that was quite interesting, because with that discovery, we've been able to find out how far away most of the stuff is out there. And then Hubble later found out, of course, that the further things are away, the faster they move. That's a whole other observation. So that's at KG5P.
Parallax. Very interesting. I appreciate that very much, Mike. Interesting comments. And, you know, being a neighboring galaxy like that, you get very close and can understand a lot of the things from an extragalactic perspective, and then be able to apply it locally as well, and then be able to get a large overall view of everything going on in a galaxy, and then apply it into the local area that involves whatever local is, I guess, involving Earth and beyond. So pretty cool. I appreciate your comments very much. Let's see. This is KE5ICX. I'm Net Control. We're doing open mic tonight. However, I'm going to go ahead and move on to some of the other topics. Thank you all who talked about their favorite Messier objects. That was very nice. I was worried that people wouldn't be able to, or wouldn't be interested in contributing, and they most certainly did. So let's see here. Let me go ahead and I'll do one of the two segments on earthsky.org this evening, just because I can. Let's see here. Let me get this all set up here. You can go to earthsky.org tonight if you want to, or go to w5fc.org. You get the same information there. This comes as follows. It says on June 29th and 30th of this year, and even on July 1st, watch for the bright reddish star, and they put that in quotes, near the moon. In truth, that's no star. It's a no, it's not. It's a red planet, Mars, now very bright and blazing in our sky by mid-evening, midway between your local sunset and midnight, every night. Here's why. Mars will be brighter in 2018 than it's been since 2013. Why? Well, the Martian spaceships know. And starting now, it's the best time to see Mars. Beginning of July, Mars shines about 8 times brighter than Saturn, which the moon swept past just a few nights ago. By month's end, Mars will exceed the brilliance of Saturn by some 15 times. It's not often that Mars outshines Jupiter, which is also visible in the evening sky. Jupiter is normally the fourth brightest celestial object to light up the sky after the Sun, Moon, and Venus. But indeed, Mars will outshine Jupiter from about July 7th through September 7th of this year. What's going on here? Why is Mars so bright? Why are people still walking on my grass? After all, 2017 was a lousy year for Mars. The planet was faint and inconspicuous in our sky throughout the year. The answer is that Mars takes about 2 Earth years to orbit the Sun, while Earth takes 1 year, I'm pretty sure. So about every 2 years, we catch up to Mars in the race of the planets. Here's where Earth and Mars on June 29, 2018. And there's a picture. This comes from a computer depiction, the Formulab depiction of the inner planets on July 28th. And I got that up on the screen if you're watching that. Otherwise, just look for it on the w5fc.org website. You can see what we're talking about. So we pass between Mars and the Sun every 2 years. Astronomers call this an opposition of Mars. But no, Mars oppositions are created equal. The best oppositions come when Mars is near its perihelion, or closest to the Sun, around the time we are sweeping between the Sun and Mars. In 2018, Mars will reach perihelion on September 16th. We go between the Sun and Mars on July 27th. With Mars so near the Sun at opposition, it will also be especially close to us, closer than in 2003. Remember Mars' historically close opposition of August 28, 2003? Of course you do. That year it was closer and brighter than it had been in some 60,000 years, which you may not remember as well. Mars' upcoming July opposition on July 27th will be the best since then. So the bottom line is, watch for Mars near the Moon on June 29th to 30th and on July 1st to 2018. And notice Mars' dramatic brightness now. Mars will be even brighter before its opposition in late July. This is KE5ICX. I'm Net Control for tonight's Skynet. We're going to go ahead and move on to Miss Carolyn and her topic for this evening. So KC5OZT from KE5ICX. The net is yours.
This is KC5OZT. Now we're going to look at Lyra, and I'm going to condense it a little bit, but Lyra is a small constellation, 52nd in size, and it's named for a lyre, L-Y-R-E, a harp-like musical instrument in Greek mythology. And of course, the most famous star in it is probably Vega, the brightest star at magnitude 0.03. It's a neighbor. It's only 25 light years away. And it's the second brightest star in the northern sky, and only Arcturus is brighter. That's a white dwarf, and it was actually our North Pole star around 12,000 BC, and it will be again around the year 13,727. So, it has a disk of dust around it and may have a planet, but it's part of the Summer Triangle with Altair and Deneb and other constellations. My favorite is Epsilon, popularly known as the Double-Double. It's magnitude 4.7. If you use binoculars, you can see two stars. If you move up to a telescope, each one of those two can be resolved into a binary, and which orbit each other. And then the two main components of the binary stars also orbit each other. I did include a chart on the website of a variable, and it varies between 3.9 and 5. But makes it easy to follow with binoculars. It's called Lyra. And if you want a good variable to try observing, that makes a good one. But you use the chart, not the one that's on the screen right now, but another one I sent over. Cepheids, there's another class of stars that have a relation that gives distance to, this name for Lyra. Its name is a name for this class of stars, and it's located in this constellation. It's a little fainter than the Cepheids. All right, moving on. We do have some nice Messier objects here in Lyra. First one's M56, a globular cluster. About magnitude 8.3, and it's about halfway between beta and gamma Lyra. It appears as a fuzzy star, but you can resolve it with an 8-inch telescope. The most famous one in this planetary nebula is in this constellation M57, the nebula, blue in the middle, red and yellow around the outside. It's magnitude 8.8. It's located south of Vega. It's easy to find, and of course, it was formed from a shell of ionized gas expelled by a red giant star. And the ring nebula belongs to the class of planetary nebula known as bipolar nebula. It has a thick equatorial ring and noticeably extends the structure through its main axis, and you can show that in the picture. We do have one, it's 3 pictures in one of NGC 6791. It's a dim open cluster, magnitude 9.5, but one of the oldest and most metal-rich ones in the Milky Way. And we have a nice irregular galaxy, NGC 6745. It's magnitude 13.3, so you might just have to observe it in photos unless you have a good scope. But what's odd, it's really a triplet of galaxies, 3 of them that have been colliding and merging. for hundreds of millions of years. You have a large spiral with its nucleus intact, and then you have a smaller passing galaxy that's almost out of the picture at the lower right. And then they merely impact gravitation. They passed each other. They actually collided. If your two galaxies won't really collide, they'll just pass through each other. These were collided. And then there's a third one that also is colliding with the other two. So Lyra is another place to find some nice M objects, Messier objects, and some interesting stars. So take a tour through it, and it'll be one of your favorites, KC50ZT.
And I appreciate it, and there's some really dramatic objects there. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet, 5th Saturday. Who knows what happens on Skynet. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening and have not done so already, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. I will put you on the list. Have anyone over on Echolink who would like to join us, please come now. That's okay. Okay, that's okay. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I know Miss Brenda, WB50ZL was mobile. Are you back to some place where you can go ahead and give your report? Otherwise, I will do so for you. WB50ZL. I suspect she was running a little late. That's okay. She filed her homework quite admirably. I'll try and say that correctly. So we have two announcements this evening, or two reports to give. More clues that Earth-like exoplanets are indeed Earth-like. This is from June 28th from the Science Daily. And this is what they say. A new study from the Georgia Institute of Technology provides new clues indicating that an exoplanet 500 light years away is much like Earth. And they say the following. They say Kepler 186f is the first identified Earth-sized planet outside the solar system orbiting a star in a habitable zone. This means it's the proper distance from its host star for liquid water to pool on the surface. Tech study used simulations to analyze and identify the exoplanet's spin axis dynamics. Those dynamics determine how much of the planet tilts on its axis and how that tilt angle evolves over time. Axial tilt contributes to seasons and climates because it affects how sunlight strikes the Earth's surface. The researchers suggest that Kepler's 186F's axial tilt is very stable, much like Earth, making it likely that it has regular seasons and a stable climate. The Georgia Tech team thinks the same is true for Kepler 62F, a super-Earth-sized planet orbiting around the star about 1,200 light years away from us. How important is axial tilt for climate? Large variability in axial tilt could be a key reason why Mars transformed from a watery landscape billions of years ago to today's barren planet. Quote, Mars is a habitable zone in our solar system, but its axial tilt has been very unstable, varying from 0 to 60 degrees, says Georgia Tech assistant Professor Zhongji Li, who led the study together with graduate student Yutong Shan from the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. That instability probably contributed to the decay of the Martian atmosphere and evaporation of surface water. Comparison, Earth's axial tilt oscillates more wildly between 22.1 and 24.5 degrees, going from one extreme to the other every 10,000 years or so. The orientation angle of the planet's orbit around its host star can be made to oscillate by gravitational interaction with other planets in the same system. If the orbit were to oscillate at the same speed as the precession of the planet's spin axis, akin to the circular motion exhibited by rotation axis of a top or a gyroscope, the spin axis would also wobble back and forth, sometimes dramatically. Mars and Earth interact strongly with each other as well as with Mercury and Venus. As a result, by themselves, their spin axis would precess with the same rate as orbital oscillation, which may cause large variations in their axial tilt. Fortunately, the Moon keeps Earth's variations in check. Ooh, that's interesting. The Moon increases our planet's spin axis precession rate and makes it differ from the orbital oscillation rate. Mars, on the other hand, doesn't have a large enough satellite to stabilize its axial tilt. It appears that both exoplanets are very different from Mars and Earth because they have a weaker connection with their sibling planets, said Lee, faculty member of the School of Physics. We don't know whether they possess moons, but our calculations show that even without satellites, the spin axis of Kepler 186F and 62F would have remained constant over tens of millions of years. F is less than 10% larger in radius than Earth, but its mass, composition, and density remain a mystery. It orbits its host star every 130 days, according to NASA. The brightness of that star at high noon, while standing on 186F, would appear as bright as the sun just before sunset here on Earth. Kepler 186F is located in the constellation Cygnus as part of a 5-planet star system. Finally, Lee says, our study is among the first to investigate climate stability of exoplanets and adds to the growing understanding of these potentially habitable nearby worlds. I don't think we understand enough about the origin of life to rule out the possibility of their presence on planets with irregular seasons. Even on Earth, life is remarkably diverse and has shown incredible resilience to extraordinary hostile environments. The paper, Obliquity Variations of Habitable Zone Planets, Kepler 62F and Kepler 186F, is published on the Astronomical Journal, which is online. And finally, Milky Way is rich in grease-like molecules. This is what they say. This comes from an article from the 27th of this month. Our galaxy is rich in grease-like molecules, according to Australian-Turkish team. Astronomers at the University of New South Wales in Sydney and EG University in Turkey used a laboratory to manufacture material with the same properties as interstellar dust and used their results to estimate the amount of space grease found in the Milky Way. The results appear in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. So what is this? Organic material of different kinds contain carbon, an element considered essential for life. There is, though, real uncertainty over its abundance, and only a half of the carbon expected is found between the stars in this pure form. The rest is chemically bound in two main forms, grease-like, aliphatic, and mothball-like aromatic. Not romantic, aromatic. Used a laboratory to create materials from the same properties as interstellar dust. They mimicked the process by which organic molecules are synthesized in the outflows of carbon stars by expanding the carbon-containing plasma into the vacuum at low temperature. The material was collected and then analyzed by the combination of techniques using magnetic resonance and spectroscopy, splitting light into the constituent wavelengths. They were able to determine how strongly the material absorbed light with a certain infrared wavelength, a marker of
completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Come on, Hal, we're not done. The team now wants to determine the abundance of mothball-like carbon, which will involve yet more challenging work in the laboratory. By firmly establishing the amount of each type of carbon in the dust, they will know precisely how much of this element is available to create life. You can go there. There's no fee, and they will tell you about all of these different articles and how they work out. All right, we are at a point where we're done. I figured that in some place. Right, this is KE5ICX. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins, or final check-ins, actually, on this net. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close out the net. This is KE5ICX Net Control for tonight's Skynet. We had 24 check-ins this evening, not too bad. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening, and we hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, we mean it. Send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net, astronomy in general, on Facebook and on Twitter, as well as our audio and video feeds, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:31 local time. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy discovering the universe. We will start the Afterglow Movie Net in 5 minutes. That gives you enough time to pop popcorn, do the things you need to do, and come back and discuss the movie Chappie from 2015. 7-3, everybody. Have a good evening.
One needs to use the repeater before we begin the net. Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda. I'm in DeSoto, and I am going to be net control tonight for the Afterglow movie. Tonight's movie is called Chappie, and I will now defer to our expert movie summarizer, KE5ICX, if you will do your usual wonderful job of telling us what this movie is about.
Let me take care of this popcorn. Okay. Boy, that was quick. Let's see. Chappie. Wikipedia says the following. Chappie, stylized as Chappie, is a 2015 dystopian science fiction action crime thriller, film directed by Neil Blomkamp and written by Blomkamp and Terry Hatchell. It stars Cerrito Copley, Dev Patel, Jose Pablo Cantino, Sigourney Weaver, really, Hugh Jackman, really, and Watkin Tudor-Jones and Yolande Visser, and we figured that, of the South African Zep Rat rave group Die at Word, as meta-fictional versions of themselves. The film, set and shot in Johannesburg, is about an artificially intelligent law enforcement robot, not to be confused with that other robot in Detroit, captured and taught by gangsters who nickname it Chappie. Chappie premiered in New York City on March 4th, 2015, and was released in U.S. cinemas on March 6th of 2015. Film grossed $102 worldwide against a $49 million budget. I'll give you part of the plot. I won't give you the whole thing because it actually is fairly intricate. It says a skyrocketing crime rate leads to the city of Johannesburg in South Africa to buy a squadron of scouts that state-of-the-art armor-plated attack robots from weapons manufacturer Tetraval, V-A-A-L. I wonder if that's named after the Val. Never mind, from Star Trek. Yeah, I think it is. These autonomous androids are developed by British scientist Dion Wilson and largely supplant the overwhelmed human police force. A competing project within the company is remotely controlled by Moose, not Moose and Squirrel, different organization, but Moose, M-O-O-S-A, developed by Australian soldier-turned-engineer Vincent Moore. Dion is praised for Tetraval's success, but Vincent grows envious when the police are unwilling to give his heavy weapons platform equal attention. Home, Dion creates a prototype artificial intelligence that mimics the human mind to the point of feeling emotions and having opinions. But Tetraval, CEO Michelle refuses to let him test the AI on a police robot. Undeterred, Dion steals a recently damaged robot before it is destroyed and puts it in his van along with the guard key needed to update the robot's software. On his way home, he is kidnapped by a group of gangsters, Ninja, Yolande, and America, who threaten to kill him unless he reprograms the police robot to help them steal. Dion installs the new software into the damaged robot, which responds with childlike trepidation upon powering up. Dion and Yolande calm the robot, teaching its words and naming it Chappie. Despite Dion's wanting to stay with the robot, Ninja forces him out of their hideout. And it continues on from there. I'll leave it there. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
All right, we're going to do check-ins. We'll start with low power and short time check-ins. If you'll please come with your call sign, your name, the QTH, and I'd like to poll everyone and ask them if they are a robot. So please come now.
Low power, short time. I don't know. I guess you could dispute.
Echo 5, India, Charlie, X-ray, KE5ICX, Tom, and no, I'm not a robot. I did see the movie, though, with robots, KE5ICX.
Okay, we got KG5P, Mike, and KE5ICX. Let's go now to general check-in.
BD, Bill and Irving. I did see the movie.
So, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas. I did see the movie, and I'm not a robot.
Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville. I saw the movie, and I'm not a robot.
Number Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in East Dallas. I did see the movie, and I'm not a robot, but my consciousness has been uploaded to a thumb drive attached to one of the club's field day laptops.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, excuse me. Jay, near Weatherford, and, well, I guess I'm not a robot since I'm tired.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie, and I'm only half robot. I have a coprocessor with a corrupted cache.
Let's put those up. N5DB Bill, who has seen the movie. KF5TSK Burl, who has seen it and is not a robot. KC5OZT Carolyn, who saw the movie and is not a robot. NT5TM Tony, saw the movie, is not a robot. KG5BZWJ, saw the movie, is not a robot. And W5EBB David saw the movie, and he's half robot. Although Tony says, well, he's not a robot, he has downloaded his consciousness. That's pretty exciting. Okay, how about Echo Link? We'll give you a few extra seconds.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. I did see the movie, and to answer the robot question, I will quote another favorite movie. Negative, I am a meat popsicle.
KF5PDS, Billy, who did see the movie, and we're not sure if she's a robot. Anybody else from any mode, please come now. right, first topic is going to be, did you like the movie? And why or why not? And what did you think of the plot? We got two topics going on here. So we'll start with KG5P. Mike, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I did not see the movie. In fact, right now I'm trying to image Jupiter. What I was going to mention was that Harlan Ellison had passed away here. I think I read it in yesterday's paper. And first he wrote a whole lot of stuff, and you probably all read some of it or seen some of it. He wrote a Star Trek movie, or one of the most famous Star Trek episodes, which he claimed he didn't like. And he wrote a ton of stuff for TV and all kinds of different topics. I think he even wrote The Flying Nun. But I thought they'd pass that along. But I'll be monitoring KG5P.
KG5, ICX Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. And I messed up. I didn't know it was low power short time, so I just chimed in after Mike. I will mention this, and I echo Mike's comments about Harlan Ellison, who died here yesterday, I believe it was. One of my favorite writers. And I put on the list, gone ahead and put him on there. There's an episode of The Outer Limits called The Demon with the Glass Hand. It is available publicly over on archive.org. I put the link on the Facebook page so that you can find it, and I will go ahead and send it through email as well for those who don't have it. I think you'll find it quite interesting. It's a great show. It's only an hour, so you won't have to slog through 2 hours of motion pictures. That'll be for next week, next Saturday. I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit. Now, about this film, did I like it? Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The plot itself follows others that have been done before. Even 2001: A Space Odyssey probably did it best, where the robot or the computer, in either case, is actually more human than the humans are. And this, to a certain extent. The other side of it, though, is this, that the humans have a very definite impression on the robot, Chappie in this case. And I think that's what's really interesting about it. We have a nurturing relationship. We see a child in him, and it's reminded, and then you see an abusive father or dad and mom. I mean, that all comes a part of it, abusive father, a loving mother type of thing, and you can't help but feel for them, whether you've had children or you've been a child. We all have been children, and expect a certain, safety net of sorts with family. And when you don't get it, then it gets very difficult. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that resonated with me with this movie. I'd never seen it before. This was the first time. It was recommended by Billy, and I most appreciate her suggesting this film. Now, another comment about this, too, is the film itself was going off of Crackle, which is a live streaming service with ads, and so we had to kind of slip it in there at the last minute. So my apologies for making a program change so that we could at least discuss this movie before it disappeared for who knows how long. So my comments, thumbs up for the plot. I thought it was quite good. I like the story. We'll talk about characterization later, I think, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. KE5ICX.
Hey, N5BB. Go ahead, Bill. Wait, we can come back to him if he comes back. KF5TSK Burrell, go ahead.
This is KF5TSK. Yes, I enjoyed the movie. One of the things that seemed to be missing from what I was thinking is it looked like the corporation was actually running, I guess, the police work. You know, you really didn't see any government control, and you know, that really concerned me, that, you know, that government would just give up and say, well, we'll give you the contract and, you know, you do all the policing. Everything else in the movie seemed to be, you know, a lot of blood and gore, but I guess you have to throw something in. KF5TSK back to net.
Okay, KC5OZT, Carolyn.
I did like the movie, and violent parts not as much, but I was touched by the making this robot human, you know, with human emotions, and then him wanting to save who he called his father or maker, and then it was well, it made it seem him. You think, you know, it made robots seem more human. It's hard to explain in words. I know that. And then, of course, the ending was pretty good. You know. I won't give details, but get to KC5OZT.
NT5TM Tony.
Well, I enjoyed this, but in a I let go of the push to think button. I enjoyed this movie, but in a very superficial, popcorn-appropriate way. Director Neil Blomkamp he's got a real pattern here in this in District 9. He raises really, really deep questions, like, can you achieve immortality by copying yourself to a computer? And why is it that the management of this company focuses on the superficial thing, like which model of police robot to use? It ignores the much bigger profit question of, well, can we sell immortality by the dozen? These things up, but he, just as in District 9, ignores them in pursuit of a, you know, it's a fun movie, it's a fun plot. You kind of want to hug people, you enjoy eating popcorn, but he's got all the elements in his movies to make something really deep and permanent and serious, and he has this tradition of ignoring them. He thinks it's deep when it's not, and so I guess I'll have more to say in future rounds, but I did enjoy it, but I find this director very frustrating, because he asks all these good questions, and then he ignores the answers. NT5TM.
KG5BZWJ.
KG5BCW here. Yeah, I found the film very. I found the film enjoyable. Maybe some of his complaints was some of my complaints, but the thing that I have to admit kind of struck me, big kind of plot hole. Maybe it's not that big of a plot hole, but it's bigger when I think about it. Anyway, let me reset just for a sec. Okay. So you have the secure key, a secure key with a secure connection to the robot so you can update its firmware. And all of a sudden, we forget the fact that we have a secure key with a secure connection to hardware, and everything starts to be updated wirelessly. It's kind of defeats the purpose of having the secure thumb drive key thing. It's not really. Again, this is more like what you actually use I'm sure there's a term for what this kind of thing. It's not just a key; it's an actual key device. Just little things like that. I don't know. I don't want to be too hard on it because I think a movie is in general terms it's supposed to be enjoyable, and getting caught up in little pedantic little things like that might be a little bit overkill. Let me read that one more time. But I at the same time, that was something that was used to move the plot forward. So it's kind of one of those things that just kind of like, I really wish they had done a little bit better job on that. But then there's other points. It's like, okay, why? I mean, yeah, I honestly, I think other thoughts I have really do not relate to the plot. It's just other things. So I'm going to pass it on to the next person. This is KG5BGW.
W5EBB David, go ahead.
Overall, I enjoyed the movie. It was more action oriented, and as Tony said, just kind of touched on some of the more the deeper issues that it elicited, but it didn't really follow up on. Mainly, how is it that you can create or preserve consciousness in a machine? And most robots, computer devices are combinational in logic, where you have discrete inputs and logic, and then a repeatable output. But something with more of a sequential neural net type design, well, that incorporates memory, past inputs, past outputs, feedback, and very, very unpredictable potentially. So that consciousness.dat was golden, whatever he had in there. But how realistic is that? Well, I don't know. I mean, the behavior of a sentient conscious being will be different also for the same scenario if it thinks it's real or if it's fake. And if it's fake, we're just playing shootouts, versus if it's real, we're really shooting. Well, you can't really test it. It has to be exposed to a real world scenario. And then when you factor in the more core programming like emotions, love and hate and anger and fear, well, that's really going to strike to maybe make an intrinsic change in the personality of whatever you end up with. And finally, just in my personal case, add a coprocessor on top of that, or in parallel with it, with different logical layout, different instruction set, one that has different protocols that it recognizes. Well, who knows what you'll end up with? It might be utterly confused, or utterly powerful, or somewhere in between. W5EVB.
Hey, and Billy, KF5PDS.
Yeah, well, obviously I liked it, or I wouldn't have recommended it. So, yes, I like it very much. I even bought the DVD when I came across it. yeah, this is one of those films where it is very fun to watch. The plot has lots of action. It is complicated, but I think it weaves together nicely to form a coherent story. Yeah, Blomkamp does have a habit of doing light treatment of deep issues, but I read into this film, he had originally planned to make a trilogy, so I think maybe the light treatment was going to get more in-depth in possible sequels, but then he came back and said that no sequels are planned now because the film didn't perform well enough in the box office. So maybe if he had gone into a few of those little deeper issues, like Tony said, and made it a little more meaty and substantive, that maybe it would have done better in the box office, and then we could have seen those later sequels. So it said as of November 2016, no sequels are planned. So I guess we won't get to see what they would have done with it. But maybe, who knows, what the future holds. Maybe one day they'll change their mind. I really like the movie. Some of the plot points are disturbing to watch, like when they just dump Chappie out in the world just to get him acquainted, kind of just to chuck him in the deep end and see if he can handle it. I didn't like that. That was very mean. And, you think of Chappie as a little kid, and that's disturbing to do, So, but then there were also other points that were very touching, like when Yolandi was reading him the story in bed, and there's some light spiritual themes that are touched on, which I'll go more into when we get to character. But overall, to me, the good outweighs the hard-to-watch parts, and it's uplifting ending. And so I really enjoyed the film. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KF5 PDS, back to net.
Okay, very good. Well, it's my turn. I like this movie a lot. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I think that beyond this, the popcorn part, there's some really profound questions here. And a lot of questions are coming up in our popular culture now. Can a self-driving car do a good job? It's essentially a robot. We've had some rather ugly examples of things that went wrong. And that's the trouble. Machinery can go wrong. You're all familiar with the three laws of robotics. But here we have a robot. All you have to do is lie to it, say, that man stole my car, and he'll go and steal the car. He doesn't have the sophistication. He may be smart, but he's naive. He doesn't really know what's going on, and he can be fooled. So, in that sense, I think robots are a real danger to society because they can be in the hands of dangerous people and evil people and can be manipulated for bad things. So, of course, Chappie wasn't a real robot. He had human consciousness, which is a little different. But, how far does the robot mind have to go before it's considered actually conscious? And then we have the whole issue of, are they humans? Do they have souls? Do they have rights? And so on. And they've been arguing that in science fiction stories for eons. And we won't quit arguing. Okay, WB5OZL, I'll ask if there are any more check-ins.
November 5, Hotel Innkeeper Pod, Tom and Irving.
N5BB, I'm here. I think you may have called on me earlier. I didn't get to the radio in time.
Recognize N5HYP. Tom, did you see the movie?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say that. Yes, we did.
And are you a robot?
No, I'm perfectly human.
Yes, pretty much everybody has denied being a robot. I don't know if this is a good sign or a bad sign, but we'll find out. Okay, let's circle back to Bill. He wasn't there when I called on him. Let him give his comments, and we'll go back to N5HYP. So N5BB, go ahead and give us your comments, please.
BB. I am a robot. I'll say it that way. Can you prove me wrong? What is a robot? So anyway, I enjoyed looking at the movie, except the complaint I have about nearly all science fiction movies that seem to be made these days. Far too violent. Unnecessary violence. Unnecessary CGI. Unnecessary crazy things that just take millions of dollars to produce. To me, they kind of sicken me to watch, and I just don't understand why they do it. Why can't they concentrate on a reasonable plot, some story that makes some kind of sense, and leave off all this stupid action that they think is going to get the people to see the movie? Doesn't help me at all. Turns me off. I would not want to see. It's like the movie. What is the original Arnold Schwarzenegger robot movie? I'm trying to remember the name of it. From the one that went to Mars or something. And then the iRobot movies. Just way too much violence in them, and it just turns me off. So I'm going to continue to be just completely abhor all that. And I think this movie is full of it. The basic, if you could throw all that away and just look at some of the basic plot, it was kind of okay. But I think that the writers' attempt to introduce some kind of, I guess, morality or theme to it was kind of backwards, because there are characters in there, humans and everything, doing horrible things for no reason at all. I mean, the law enforcement was going out of control. The bad guys were going out of control. The guy with the alternative moose robot, he was killing people and doing things out of control. Zero morality in this movie. So to me, I didn't understand what the plot was. It was kind of out of control from my point of view. They needed to tone it way down, and I would have been happier with it. Something else that I was unhappy with was the voice. No reason that the house robot and Chappie had to have this made-up, funny, distorted-sounding voice. Didn't understand that at all. That's all my comments for now. N5BB.
Hey, N5HYP Tom, give us your opinion.
This is N5HYP, yes. Holly, I, and Katie watched the movie. Anna wasn't with us this time around. We all liked it, although, yes, it was pretty violent, and I agree with Bill in a lot of cases, unnecessarily. I did, I'll comment, because I came in late, comment off of one thing Bill said. So, the voices. You know, it's an interesting thing that Amazon and company are struggling with making their assistants sound too human. And because it seems to be problematic for people to have their AI assistants be too human. So I think it was important to have the voice figures sound a little bit robotic, however, or a little bit artificial. However, you also saw that because this robot was learning, was growing, had personality, that it didn't sound like your typical monotonic robotic voice that you oftentimes get in the movie. So that's kind of my difference there. Overall, though, I would say, I mean, the plot was interesting. I got a little more out of the movie after I read the plot summary, the long-form plot summary at IMDb, because I went, oh, that's what was going on there with the some of the accents that were being dealt with was a little bit odd. I'm going back to net. This is N5HYP. Thanks, Brenda.
Alrighty. And Bill, this movie's Total Recall is where Arnold Schwarzenegger was on Mars, and the Terminator series was where he was a robot. Yeah, this thing was not actually well reviewed by people that saw it. Not only about less than half of them actually liked it, and which is, well, strange that all of us seem to like it. But there's some problems I have. I love Sigourney Weaver and Hugh Jackman, and was kind of unhappy to see them in roles where they just weren't likable. There were a whole bunch of the people in this movie that were not likable at all, and you know, that kind of wears you down. All right, up next, let's talk about characterization. We'll start with, let's see, KG5P was just going to monitor KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda. This is KE5ICX. See, characterization, I think probably we got a lot of stereotypical characters brought in, and they are metaphors for things that we see in life. Obviously, Chappie was a child growing up, and his characterization, of course, is he grows and evolves and is deeply influenced by the people around him, all of whom are flawed in various ways. And he tries to figure out how to deal with all of those things in the process. And I think anyone can relate to that, because you get a lot of different conflicting inputs along the way, and Chappie wants to be affable to anyone and everything. That's partly, and it's kind of creepy in a way, because you've got to look at it in two ways. One, he's a robot, he's trying to learn, and it's part of this learning program that they've made everything a part of. And then the other side of it is that a child, it does the same thing. They absorb everything around them, and then they suddenly mimic and then have to interpret exactly what's going on. And that happened. I think that was probably the strength of this movie, is that occurring. And as we're watching this from the outside, looking in, we see the frightening parts, the bad things that can happen, and we are naturally attracted to the good parts about it, as far as seeing the humanistic pieces coming together. Let me reset. Part of this movie really does work, and it resonates with, I think, everyone. And I thank Billy for picking this film, because it's very pertinent that occurs, because we all have those feelings as we're growing up. The other parts of the film and the characterizations are a little bit less engaging. I think you mentioned it in your last comment on this round, essentially that there are characters that aren't particularly sympathetic. And that's the point, is that you throw in some formulaic things into the fray, which has to be the threats to Chappie and the fact that these characters, these people are out to get him because of what he stands for and then also what they stand for along the way. So it becomes a bit superficial sort of midway through or towards the end. And that concerns me a little bit. But overall, I like the spirit and the feel of the film, I think, is genuine and really cool. I find that, once again, in any film, especially science fiction films, the robots or the AI or the disembodied people actually have more sympathy and more humanistic traits. And I think that's where the strongest part about science fiction comes from, is that ability. Before that, of course, it's the gods, the Greek and Roman gods, and that can provide that as well. Hercules is probably the most logical in the group when it comes to that. I'll stop now. That is my point, and maybe the line is more human is than human does. I think that was the line from Blade Runner. In any case, back to you, KE5I6.
Okay, next on the list is N5BB.
Thank you. This is N5BB. I agree that Chappie is probably the only sympathetic character in the whole movie, if you really think about it. The scientist that develops Chappie, there's some things about him that aren't necessarily good. He kind of allows everything to go out of control, and he could have stopped a lot of things, and et cetera. And pretty much all the other humans are bad, except for Mommy or Yolandi, or whatever, the Mommy character. She becomes kind of sympathetic character, but she and Chappie are about the only sympathetic characters in it, which I think is really unfortunate. Everybody else is bad in one way or another. Usually multiple ways. I don't know if you call this character or not, but I wasn't convinced that her consciousness and the Neon's consciousness could be moved over by just putting on a helmet. That did not convince me at all. But I'm not sure if that's characterization or not. N5BB.
KG5P.
KG5P. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Brenda. I had a couple comments. Could you put me in the rotation next time you come around? Thank you.
How about right now? Go ahead.
Okay, well, like I said, I didn't see the movie, but I had a couple comments, especially on what Bill said about not necessarily gratuitous violence, but I think movies nowadays are made for like the 16 to 20-year-old demographic. For instance, I watched about the first 30 minutes of that last Star Trek movie, Star Wars, the one about Han Solo. And all it was where there's some fist fights, and then there was this high-speed anti-gravity car race, and I mean I get totally bored of it. Turned TV off. I found it on the internet. The other thing, I think it was mentioned earlier about the differentiation between humans and robots, and there was a story written by Isaac Asimov in 1976 called The Bicentennial Man. And it's been a long time since I've read the movie or read the book. But basically, Isaac Asimov was approached by his publisher saying, write a story about the anniversary of the United States, of the Constitution. And so he said, well, write a story about the Constitution, or write a story about anything as long as it's got 200 in it. So what Isaac Asimov wrote was about this robot. It was 200 years old, and he wanted to become a human being. And he's one of Asimov's positronic robots, and had all of the characteristics of a human, except he had a positronic brain. And he was making the argument to Congress that, the fact that you may have a prosthetic arm or prosthetic leg or even a prosthetic heart, less human. His argument was, well, neither should an artificial brain, prosthetic brain. And so he was petitioning Congress to that would bestow the title of human on him to become a legal human. It's Bicentennial Man by Isaac Asimov. It's a small novel, and it's still probably in print. KG5P.
Next, thank you. Next on the list is Bo, KF5TSK. Go ahead.
I had some concerns. I was looking at Yolandi, and, when she came back as a robot, she was retrieved from a flash drive, with the, I guess, control chip. But she had a face, and the other two robots had a glass visor. I want to say that, what were the robots going to do? I think that was kind of leading in to be a sequel, but it's like, okay, now we're robots. Now what do? Three robots and a gangster human. You can rob so much, but what do you do with it? K5TSK back to net.
Okay, KC5OZT, Carolyn.
Well, I think, the character of Chappie was, you might say the evolution of him from a child up to, you might say, a thinking adult, and wasn't caring enough to want what he thought of as his father or maker, wanted to save his life, and it does seem to show some human feelings, even if they're electronic. But at the end, it was wondering what was going to happen and where they were going. Who knows where the sequel would have been? Maybe a different country or something. I don't know, but I do think they had too much violence in there. Some of those. Let me reset. Some of them, the rival gang, I sort of didn't like that much violence in a movie, but I know it was part of the plot, but I had to go to Wikipedia and read it afterwards to understand some of it, but that's all I can think of. KH5OZT.
NT5TM, Tony, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Man, I'm sleepy and I haven't been keeping good notes. Brenda, I'd like to follow up on something you said, because one of the few issues, and thank you, Billy, for picking this, because it's always best to have a movie that has both strengths and weaknesses, but that we all enjoy watching, because then we can talk about it. I did enjoy it, and one of the only issues that the movie does go into is this question of false premises. That's how we get to see Chappie grow as a character, is, you stole my car. You can reach anything with good logic, provided you start from a bad place. Very logical that if certain people are enemies of the Reich, then maybe we have to find a solution for such people. But you're starting from the false premise that they're enemies of the Reich. So Chappie is fed these false premises and reaches logical conclusions. And yes, growing as a character and as a human and as a droid is learning to question these premises that you're fed by people around you. That was great, but by and large, the characters were unsatisfying. The real differentiation between an average movie like this and a really great movie is that in a really good movie, characters often have their own goals. Think about all the things you did today. You might have walked a dog or bathed a cat or gone to the grocery store. You had some purpose of your own that had nothing to do with advancing or hindering the purpose of the protagonist. Heck, I don't even know who today's protagonist was. The screenwriter didn't tell me. So we, all humans, were going about our own goals, not knowing who the protagonist was. A movie that doesn't rise to greatness like this one, people seem primarily defined by whether they were hindering or advancing the purpose of the protagonist. Are you in Chappie's way? Or, making him run at his battery charge, or not? Are you there to use him to steal cars, or are you trying to help him grow into be a real little boy? So, see, I guess that's my big bone to pick with the characters in this movie, is that the vast majority of them do not seem to have their own purpose and goals. They're just there to either help or hinder the protagonist, often for reasons that are not well explained or not well thought out. So it's a good movie. I enjoyed it, but it's an imperfect movie because its characters did not rise to greatness. NT5TM.
Good points. If you've ever dealt with a 2-year-old, I'd like to know what happens, the natural progression of getting born and being a 2-year-old and becoming a person is you have to establish your independence and your separation from your parents. And very often it's that horrible, terrible 2-stage that makes you think as a parent you're going to lose your mind. So you think, what if Chappie goes through that, where he's shaking the bars and wanting to do what he wants to do and not what you tell him to do? If robots grow up like that, then that's going to be a problem. All right, next, KG5BZWJ.
All right, KG5BZW. I have to say, I think I agree with Tony there. That's probably the biggest problem with the movie, is that characters, you could see it one way, in that in an efficient way, there's no superfluous, is there any superfluous characters? There doesn't seem to be, except for, like the crowds and stuff, which can be cut out or done whatever with. One second. But in the other way, you weren't really given a good understanding of anybody's motives from really any of the characters, and including just the background crowds. I just found the the resort to total chaos, that's not really. I just couldn't. I could not find that believable. You know, we've had things like Hurricane Katrina and stuff like that where there's been a lot of evacuation, and we know what actual chaos looks like. It's not a bunch of violence like that. It's other things. It's there's just so many things that just seem. We know what would happen with chaos, and that was not what happened. And so, what reality is in some ways worse, but in other ways a lot better. Like for try to keep it simple here. Let me just reset here. Otherwise, gosh, this characterization is just the weakest part of this film. They gloss over so many things. With Chappie, oh yeah, he's a super smart robot, so he'll learn stuff a lot quicker than we do. No, that's not really. That's not how a kid learns. A kid learns by watching and watching and watching and mimicking and watching and mimicking and watching. And you're not going to... I just don't buy it that any kind of intelligent entity could learn anything that fast. Unless there was a lot of stock assumptions built into its program. In which case, it's not really intelligence, it's just innate. It has innate superficial intelligence here. Oh, gosh, yeah. The more I think about characterization, the more I'm just... that's not the reason to watch this film. Final comment after the reset here. Not really related to characterization or anything, but I don't know. This isn't the first movie where we've had, conscience moved. Obviously, another recent film, maybe not that recent, is it's a Sigourney Weaver film. By the name of Avatar. It's become. I guess this what I'm trying to get at is a comment that this conscious movement thing is so it's practically a trope at this point. And I know that's not characterization, but I don't know. I just wanted to add that because I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be up. So, that being said, I think I'll hand it to the next person. KG5 BZW back to you next.
W5EDB, David.
All right, well, for characters, Hugh Jackman, I mean, he's Mr. Casual in this one, Outback, the quintessential Aussie. And he pulls off a really convincing Australian accent. It's always interesting to see an actor speak with their natural accent. Idris Elba from Luther and Prometheus is another example. But both Hugh and Sigourney Weaver were very thin characters, and I don't know if that was intentional. To say, well, the real consciousness here in this movie is going to be the robot, but they didn't really take that as far as they could have. Now, it was interesting to see right at the beginning of the movie that, Chappie being, the first android police officer, Anderson Cooper was featured, who is actually the world's first android news anchor. Now, I liked what Jay had to say about that's not really how things happen in the real world, how you learn and how you evolve your consciousness, and but if someone does want to alter that, whatever the intrinsic consciousness and personality is, whether towards compassion or aggression or maybe a combination, just whatever is exigent to motivate it to accomplish a particular mission or goal. You can't flip a few dip switches. Well, in Westworld you sort of can, but even then you have to get to the core of the mind, subconscious, so that those coefficients in the neural net get modified and converge. But it has to happen within the person or machine itself. It can't be an external forcing function. So how is that accomplished if someone does want to alter somebody? It can't be told to think differently. It has to make up its own mind through what it experiences and observes. And a subtle way to do that is through a repetition, a subliminal sort of approach of patterns and symbols and numbers that cause its own structure of its mind to rewire or to reorient itself. You don't have to be strapped to a chair with eyes pried open, forced to watch some programming designed to affect you. All you have to do today is turn on the TV, or read the news, or watch a movie, and it's all there if you really, really look. W5EBD.
All right, KF5PDS, Billy.
Yeah, I agree that to me the characters seem kind of homogeneous, not flat, but just like Tony said, nobody really rising to the occasion except for Chappie. Chappie does, Chappie is totally the protagonist, because we follow him through his journey and his growth, and he actually does rise up and has more redeeming qualities than the humans around him. So he, by the end of the film, I think he has shown definite growth. I was a little disappointed in Dion. I wish he had been a little more, stronger and more, I guess, upstanding and more, not heroic, but more of a co-protagonist, because Chappie was his creation. So I don't know, but he was flawed, and as everyone was around him, and he was willing to steal a guard key so that he could explore his upload his programming into what became Chappie, originally Robot 22, so but that's usually how a lot of sci-fi and any story is born out of conflict or somebody doing something that's not according to the rules, because in pretty much any movie, if everybody follows the rules and does everything logically, then there's no conflict, everything plays out smoothly, and we have no movie. So it has to be born out of some, failings of characters or failing in to do something, or good story is born out of adversity and conflict. So there's plenty of that, and I agree there's a little too much of that at the end. It just gets downright gory, and there's no real need for that. Sure, there should be violence because they're in a violent place. Johannesburg is not known as a docile city. It is a city that has been war torn. It is a city that has known conflicts, for like the apartheid racism struggles, so it is a city that has those issues, and we're on this kind of the seamy underside in the gangster world of the city. We don't see much of the nice part of the society. We're on the kind of the dark underbelly of the city, because that's where Chappie is placed. But I think if he had been placed in a nice, ethical part there, and he would have grown up just fine, again, we wouldn't have had as good, it would have been boring, So there are parts that were disturbing to watch, like when Ninja and America just dropped Chappie off in front of some violent kids, and they harm him and set him on fire, and that was very difficult to watch, and Chappie was scared, and you really felt right along with him. and it was hard to watch. And then there were some uplifting moments that really brought a tear to my eye when Chappie first meets Dion and asks him, "Why did you make me just to die? Why did you put me in this broken body?" And that really made me cry, because there are human beings on the planet now that probably would ask the same thing, of God, And so to me, that was a real heavy-hitting moment that really got me in the feels, to use a parlance of our times. Let me reset. Hold on. I have more to say. And there were humorous elements, when they were blinging Chappie all up and putting all kinds of graffiti all over him and giving him gold chains to wear, and he was talking ghetto, that was some humorous aspect. He was trying to mimic what was around him to fit in, even if it was, the gangster lifestyle, and yet talking him around, in certain ways to kind of bypass the logic, which, they don't, allude to any of the robotics, like we were talking about Asimov earlier, the 3 laws of robotics. You wouldn't be able to do that if he was, had the positronic brain. So, what's going on there? The fact that, this robot has human failings, he can be duped. He can be tricked into doing things that aren't ethical, and that makes an added nuance to me. I wish more that there had been more dynamic range to the characters, because Hugh Jackman was woefully underutilized. And as Sigourney Weaver, she had more like a cameo than an actual role. To me, she was seen so little. So it's hard to see good actors get underutilized. And Dev Patel, who played Dion, who is, a very good actor, his character was good. I just wish they'd have shown more of his good side. But maybe that was to come, because we're seeing, I think, a third of a trilogy, and we're not going to get to see the rest of it. So it may have been just a slow burn, slow boil to get to those characters bubbling to the top and having some kind of redemption, or, turning society around, or, seeing the next wave. And the robot at the end, she has a human face, on the robot, and I think maybe that was more of what was a taste of what was to come. So I'm disappointed that we won't get to see, the other 2 movies that Blomkamp had planned. I feel gypped in that respect. I didn't know that when I first saw the film, and I just read that while we were doing this net. And so I'm just kind of like, that bums me out, because now maybe I understand more why the characters weren't built up as much. Maybe there was going to be more dynamics in the second movie. Who knows? But anyway, it was still very enjoyable. And the characters, there were moving moments that, to me, outweighed the disturbing parts. And so that makes it an enjoyable film for me. So with that, I'll return it to the net. This is KF5PDS. Back to net.
N5HYP.
Hey, Brenda in the net, this is N5HYP. I, too, agree that a lot of the characterizations were kind of thin. They gave Hugh Jackman at least roles that got him out of the office. For crying out loud, Sigourney's character, never got out from behind the walls of their company, pretty much. So, she was underutilized. I think she was given a small part, but a big billing to try to get, people to show up because of the name of an actor. That being said, and I think from a character standpoint, the casting of some legitimate, actually, South African punk gangsta type people to play punk gangsta type people was kind of interesting. both Yolandi and Ninja, who actually used those were actually their real stage performance names. And I guess maybe even real life names now. To actually cast that type of person to fill these seedy underbelly characters was kind of interesting. Overall, I think the characters were fairly one-dimensional. Yes, Chappie was, of course, because the movie was named after him, you were supposed to be most invested in that character and less invested in anybody else. On a couple more little plot story notes. There were a whole lot of things here where you had to kind of, wonder, like, there was, in this modern security conscious age, why was it so easy for an employee to drive around in a company panel van and to carry parts from the almost junkyard out without anybody questioning it. Second of all, I also thought how our Chappie's father, Chappie's creator, he could just come in, drive into the bad guy's hideout at any time. They didn't have any security or anything like that. He just kind of drives up and rings the doorbell several times. Figuratively, not literally. But it was, so I think characterization-wise it was kind of weak. And I think they tried to cover up some of that by having the modern gratuitous violence. So, that's all I got for now. Back to that from N5HYP.
Okay, well, I agree with a lot of people that it was too violent and it's gratuitous, but I feel that way about so many movies. So give us some story or some human interest or something besides just another car chase. So many movies don't have a good balance on that. It's just, a lot of action and adventure, and I just figured everybody else likes it. That's why they keep making it. It costs a lot of money, but that's not me. I prefer more of a story to see there. I question, what would would Chappie, would his consciousness develop and grow at the same kind of pace that a human would? What we are today is the culmination of everything that's happened every other day before, our experiences and our learning and our relationships. And, any human has this, and I guess Dion would have it, but would Chappie have it, or would he develop in other ways? We wouldn't know. They didn't exactly say what kind of consciousness they gave him. If it was Dion's or something very similar, or might it be something different? And you just have to wonder. These guys are basically immortal now, so immortality is a heavy burden if you don't have plenty to do. Okay, any more check-ins? Okay, it's almost midnight, so I think what we want to do, what I want to do, is if you have any more comments or opinions, just go ahead and jump in. Otherwise, I think we're getting pretty close to the end. This is WV50ZL. KF5TSK, go ahead, Burl.
You know, I thought it was interesting that when Dion was injured or shot, the chappie took him to the company and not to a hospital. You know, didn't think about anything medical. It's like, hey, we got to take you in and get you cloned. I thought that was really funny. And, you know, the other thing, too, is, you know, how did Chappie know that Vincent Moore was, you know, really controlling this super robot? That's all I have. KFI TSK back to net.
Yes, good point. Okay, anybody else?
KF5TDS. KF5TDS.
Anybody else have comments?
W5EBB.
W5EBB.
Just a quick final comment. That helmet to mind interface was the -R version, but I'm pretty sure that the -RW version of it out there somewhere too. W5EBB.
Good point. Okay, anybody else?
NT5TM.
NT5TM, go ahead, Tony.
I'm pretty sure Billy was trying to make it in, so I'll let you know that, but I just wanted also to compliment and thank Billy. The best movies for discussion are those that are good but not great and not terrible, because the terrible one I can't finish, and the great ones, what am I supposed to even say? This was perfect. So we want a movie that is entertaining, but not perfect, where we can all see things that it doesn't quite solve or issues that it raises but doesn't answer, so we can talk about it. So Billy, thank you very much. NT5TM.
Thank you, Billy. It sounded like you were trying to get in here, and so I'm going to give your Echo Link a little bit extra time if you want to come and have more comments.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. I tried to throw out my call sign twice, but I didn't get your acknowledgement, so I wasn't sure if I was heard. So thank you, Tony, for relaying that. And I'm so glad everybody enjoyed the film, and I'm glad, Tony, that I hit that sweet spot for the discussion, because you're right, if it's too good, then nobody really ever has anything to say, and if it's too bad, then, like you say, nobody finishes it, so nobody has anything to say. So I'm glad this kind of struck into that sweet spot where there's good things to say and also things that we could discuss, had strengths and weaknesses. So I'm glad everybody enjoyed it, because I certainly did. I just wanted to add that, with regards to Yolandi Visser and Ninja, they are South African, so I think it's great that they got South African musicians and actors. The voice of Chappie is actor Charlton Copley, who, if you saw Elysium, he plays the bounty hunter character in Elysium. If you haven't seen that, that's another Blomkamp that kind of hits in this sweet spot. I had recommended that one also. I think Tom has that one on the list, but that would be a good one for discussion. But Charlton Copley is also South African, so I think it's great they got South African actors since it was set in Johannesburg. It gives it a certain authenticity, even if the characters aren't super well developed. It kind of just gives it some authenticity. And if you haven't listened to Die Antwoord, which is the answer, it means Die Antwoord means the answer in German as well as in Afrikaans. But their music is really interesting. Some of it was used in the film, but just wanted to throw out, because I think someone mentioned wanting that those were their real names. Those are actually their stage names. Ninja's real name is Watkin Tudor Jones, and Yolandi Visser's real name is Henri Dutoit. So the names they used in the film are their stage names. And I thought it was kind of funny to see some shameless plugs for the group, because they had some of their logos and stuff in all the graffiti, and big shot of the Yolandi Visser Die Antwoord logo on the back of Ninja, so they did like shameless plug for the group in the movie. I thought that was really great. And if at one point you do notice Yolandi is actually wearing a Chappie t-shirt, so Blomkamp put in some merchandising into the film too, so kind of plugging it as we were watching it, so I thought that was kind of funny. That's all I wanted to add, so with that I'll return it to you. This is KF5 PDS, back to Ned.
Well, it is midnight. I'm going to shut it down, and we will see you all next week. This is WB5OZL signing off.
Elvis has left the building.
Time is 12:05.